Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the return of the All Star Wrestling Review Series from the WWF. And it's going to be a mixed mash because I don't know what's available. So join us on an ever evolving series, I suppose. In any event, this particular episode is the All Star Wrestling for the 9th of June, 1984. Useful show for a number of reasons. Not exactly a show that necessarily everyone is going to connect with because there is a classic, albeit somewhat controversial, story series here, and which we'll get to in a minute. Actually, the highlights thereof covered by Gene Okerlund. But suffice to say, we've got over 1,400 audios, so if this isn't for you, certainly something will be. And continue to make the best of situations as we continue to move through the summer. My goal by the end of the year is to double what's on this site, but a lot of that has to do with whether my unexpected move takes longer than expected. So a lot has to do in that way. Billy Joel Travis is the opponent for Paul Orndorff. Orndorff only been with the organization for a couple of months at this point. Already kind of positioned as a top guy. And people are already calling him Paula here in 1984, which I did not realize. Again, my fandom began in 1989, and so this I'm pretty caught up on 86 forward. There's very little from 86 forward, that first few years before my fandom began, that I'm not familiar with. But 84 is kind of where there's things I didn't know anyway. And so Orndorff with a back soup, with a kind of a release atomic drop style maneuver, toss off, and does a lot of posing. Gets up and around. I don't think Bobby Heenan has debuted with him here. Certainly not with him here on this particular edition. And without a doubt, one of the better enhancement matches. As you see, Orndorff kind of torched the man out to the floor pretty aggressively, kind of going at him. I think this might actually be the Keeler Auditorium or another large venue. Clothesline by Orndorff. Orndorff manages to go and hit the pile driver, which actually causes kind of a bit of a quiver there by the enhancement talent, and a victory. Vince McMahon is in the line with the Dream Come True bit. Fans meeting important kids specifically, meeting stars like a Tito Santana and such. Then we move to the review series with Mean Gene Okerlund, who basically says this is the most heinous act he's ever seen in WWF since he's been there. Of course, he's only been there for a couple of months, so that's kind of a interesting run-in. But anyway, Mean Gene talking, of course, about the Roddy Piper nailing Jimmy Snuka with the coconut. Now, if you've never seen this angle before, this is covered just about everywhere. It has him on the Piper's Pit, and eventually is making fun of his racial undertones and such, and then eventually smacks him in the head with a coconut and starts whipping him with a belt. One of the most violent, for the time, storylines that exist. Snuka getting up, legitimately angry, having to be held back by multiple people. Also, just pounding on the set, pounding on the walls and everything else. Tito Santana, the Intercontinental Champion of the time, says that there will be vengeance taken against Mr. Piper for all of this, and what will happen to him is at his own hand and of his own doing. We then go to another interesting run as Rocky Johnson in an enhancement challenge match. Of course, Rocky Soulman Johnson, the father of The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and of course, indirectly related to the Samoan family, High Chief Peter Maivia and such. Go behinds and then a front face lock by Johnson. Johnson not getting all he wants on this particular series of attacks. But Johnson up and over, extremely agile for the time. Arm drags by, Johnson gets what he wants out of those for the time being, anyway. Really simple thing, and ultimately, kind of sort of, a big attempted sunset flip, and again, there we go, roll up by Johnson, and gets the roll up after a couple drop kicks and a sunset flip. Rocky Johnson at the time still considered a pretty main talent. Then we get an enhancement match for, of all people, Buzz Sawyer. Buzz Sawyer, not exactly a guy that hung around this area very long. Of course, having what many people consider, both an addiction-related issue and a drug-related and mental health-related issue. And so Sawyer doesn't last in the WWF very long, but he ends up hitting the metal post pretty hard in the early stages. SD Jones, his opponent of the day, so a little bit of a advanced deal there. Captain Lou Albano is the manager for Buzz Sawyer, which I did not realize it either. I will give Sawyer credit. Got a beautiful power slam, as well as a series of forearms that are really crisp. I think a lot of guys learning to strike well and execute a beautiful spinning power slam, both of which can learn from Buzz Sawyer. And Sawyer tries to choke out SD Jones, tries to do everything he can to get an advantage wherever he can. Not a very big deal there, but he's sent to the outside. Of course, then we go to a secondary after the match, that is, and a win for Buzz Sawyer. Then we go to the continuation of the contest as it was, and that ultimately leads to the return to another Piper's Pit, this time. And again, the use of a guy like Buzz Sawyer or anyone of that nature at this time is almost just as much to hurt the other individuals. The Iron Sheik comes into a enhancement match here as well. The odd thing with the Iron Sheik is that he's managed by Classy Fitty Blassie, which he is up through the beginning of, or early point in 1986, but Blassie is also in Headgear and other such. And Terry Daniels is a member of Sergeant Slaughter's Cobra Kai. The ironic thing is that the Sheik, who had about a 1 month reign as the WWF champion, is here. Sergeant Slaughter backstage in the Cobra Kai, or the Cobra Corps, Cobra Kai television show, Cobra Corps, what Slaughter's part of, group. And so it's just amazing to me that 6 months later, Sheik is in these enhancement matches, kind of looking a little disheveled. Hard shots by the Sheik. Sheik with a quick vertical suplex and kind of falling backwards into what he considers to be the right position. Terry Daniels fights up from underneath and manages to do everything he can. Hard shots by the Sheik, and again, you kind of see Sheik loading up the boot as Slaughter, who is in the midst of a good feud with the Sheik here, is approaching the ring. Hard kicks by the Sheik with the loaded boot, and the Sheik is not willing to take any backward steps unless he absolutely has to here. And so we begin to see hard shots and a shove off by Slaughter. Slaughter goes at the Sheik, and the war between the two of them continues. Then we go to a commercial break after Slaughter checks on Terry Daniels. Jesse the Body Ventura still wrestling at this point, for a couple of more months anyway. I think he ends in 84 at some point, but he's still here, and of course got the dyed hair and the whole bit. And needless to say, taking out the earrings before the match begins. Jesse obviously goes on to be one of the best heel commentators of all time, maybe beside Bobby Heenan. Ventura, though, not really doing a whole heck of a lot, hanging on the arm. The majority of his time spent in the AWA and Slaughter. I keep wanting to say Slaughter because he was in the previous segment, but Ventura in a over-the-shoulder backbreaker type hold, keeping his control and getting a submission victory. That will close us for today. We'll be back with more right after this.